Are getting started with the show tonight. I'm getting all my notifications and everything out of the way. I'm not going to be doing anything else. Sorry, my voice is a little hoarse, a little thirsty. I'll go fix that. We are going to be starting an episode of Hellier, and this episode is titled "The Secret Commonwealth." So we're going to go ahead, watch along, and yeah, all so far it's been pretty good. Everybody likes it. Everybody likes the show. So if you don't know, this here that I have posted up on the screen right now is the official advertised banner for WebC Official. So everybody who's viewing this on all the different pages and everything, this QR code brings you straight to the headquarters for WebC Official. And this is where you can view all our shows and all our videos that we have from past and present and live and futures. All right, so we will get to Hellier.
Talk about synchronicities, right? May 23rd at 10:23 a.m. I'm just scrolling through Twitter, and all of a sudden, a name pops out at me. It's Thursday, so there's Folklore Thursday. You ever participate in that? It's pretty great. It's just lots of folklore people throw up. Well, on this day, I see that Chris Woodyard retweeted, in Somerset, it is said that a child alone in a bluebell wood will be whisked away by fairies forever. If an adult goes into the wood to pick bluebell fairies, it will lead them around in circles for hours, if not days, until someone ventures in to rescue them. I thought, well, that's interesting. Somerset. Must be a Somerset in the UK, right? Didn't really think much of it. Well, that was at 10:23. 10:28, this pops up into my timeline. Somerset is a hot spot for the Fae, and for centuries, my local fairies have held a fair on the Blackdown Hills, first reported in Bovitt's Pandemonium in 1684. The event includes ribbon peddlers, pewterers, and ale sellers, but beware, guests are not welcome. So that's another Folklore Thursday that popped up into my feed minutes after. So then this pops up. 10:28. In Somerset, angry tree fairies known as oakmen are said to inhabit any coppice growing from felled oaks. Locals know to avoid these thickets after sunset. Another photograph.
Going again.
Somerset popped up again in my timeline. Minutes later.
Yeah.
So at this point, I went, okay, that's weird. I'm going to start looking at Somerset. So I went to the search function on Twitter, and I typed in Somerset. The first thing that popped up is from last year. Anyone who lives in Somerset, I swear there's a UFO hovering above. I'm not messing. Okay, here's another one. Triangle shape in Somerset, Kentucky on Friday the 21st of February, 2014. The legend of Goblin Combe in Somerset, as recorded in Folk Tales of England. Briggs and Tongue, 1965. Whole story here about fairies from Goblin Combe in Somerset, England. At this point, 3 hours had gone by. This is at 1:19, same day, May 23rd. 1691 book, The Secret Commonwealth of Elves, Fauns, and Fairies, is regarded by many as one of the most important works on fairy lore ever committed to paper. The author, it is said, paid a heavy price for his involvement with fairy folk. It's not super thick, but it's like full of the secrets of the Fae, right? So they say that this guy paid the ultimate price for revealing these secrets. You know what his name was? His name was Robert Kirk.
Keep back.
Newkirk.
Newkirk.
What are we literally doing right now?
Newkirk, and you're like also a gray minister.
This guy was a minister in this place. I'm literally an ordained minister.
Yeah.
My dad was a minister. This guy, Robert Kirk, was dragged away by the Fae because he was giving their secrets away. Which is literally what we're trying to do. It's that idea of a story that continues to play out over and over and over.
All right, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Yo, that's a crazy opening, especially from the last episode we just left off from. Just leaving off with that super synchronicity episode about the balloons and everything, and now we're jumping over into this book about the Fae. All right. So yeah, let's doesn't work that way. Oh. Well done.
At some point, you need to resign yourself to the fact that you may never know exactly what it is, but if you're very fortunate, you'll get the poetry of it. It's a transformational experience, and again, I'll refer you to just Campbell and the hero's journey. This is the hero's journey, and it involves going and obstacles and coming back, but not being the person that you were when you started, being greater for the agony and the ecstasy of it.
Hellier was a lot easier to compartmentalize when the first season was being prepped. Before the first season came out, I mean, it's obvious. There was a point in time where I kind of threw my hands up and was like, I can't think about this right now. I was frustrated with it, so I wasn't dedicating a lot of time to it. And then after Hellier came out, it was just impossible. I don't really have a choice in the matter anymore. It just is kind of 100% Hellier all the time, and then we try and do the museum whenever we can, but Hellier's always somewhere hovering in the backs of our minds.
The more I think about us doing an initiation ritual, the more I feel as if that's the right direction to be looking in. I think that there's so much happening that just seems to be perfectly situated in that space, and it's happening to each of us separately in our own individual ways and together as a group. It just feels as if we are a part of this massive initiation, and I don't know what we're being initiated into, but it feels as if it is a current that we're being pulled along through.
A month after Hellier dropped, somebody sent me a copy of a book that I've been looking for years. Really strange timing on it. Super odd. It was like a holy grail book for Forteans and weirdos, something that's super rare. Not many copies exist. In fact, usually to read a copy, you have to go to a library. I think the nearest one here is like in Indianapolis. And you have to either rent it through like interlibrary loan for professors, or you have to read it there.
Is it really old?
It's like 70s, 80s. I think 80s, I want to say. It's called The Rebirth of Pan. He sent me a PDF copy. To buy a new copy or to buy an old copy, literally they're like $500, $600. Even bootleg prints go for $150. So it's crazy that it's so hard to find. But because of that, it's one of the holy grail books for a lot of Forteans. Really interesting timing on receiving this thing. It was written by a guy named Jim Brandon. There's a lot of mystery around this guy because that's a pseudonym. Apparently, he used to be a reporter. He lays out a case in this book that we're dealing with some sort of grand spirit of the earth. He calls it Pan. Pan, obviously after the god Pan, but also because Pan means all. I read the entire thing in one sitting, and I'm just making note after note after note in this book because so much of it was so unbelievably relevant. What really drew me to it was this page. There's a three-toed footprint, another three-toed footprint that's actually one of the native mounds here in Ohio, and then these three-toed tracks that look like turkey prints. He says the mythical personality Orion was sometimes referred to as the cock's foot or the foot-turning wanderer. One can only wonder at the relevance of the fact that one of the most persistent glyphs appearing on native rock art, anomalous inscribed objects, and even as centerpieces in the Great Mounds Complex in Newark, Ohio, is that of the three-toed bird track symbol. A ridiculously associative mind might even ponder a link with many three-toed Bigfoot tracks widely found from ancient rock to contemporary garden mud. I wondered what Wicca enthusiasts would have made of them, since this mark is the sign of witches' meeting places in European lore. The symbol also occurs in many other North American rock inscriptions. I can only conjecture that this symbol has some unknown significance to Pan. Immediately, there's this three-toed link with the idea of Pan, and that's kind of what got me started looking at Pan. This symbol right here, that three-toed footprint symbol, this is the footprint that we didn't think was related. The one that was found just outside Hellier.
Oh, from that guy's friend. And that's in stone?
Yeah. It's literally that. We can think back to the phone call we had with a guy in Jenkins who said that they had found a three-toed print in a cave.
Yeah, there's a track, and I could put my two fingers down in the track.
Yeah.
Like a, I don't know if you would call it a turkey track or something. I could put my two fingers in that track, and my thumb would be back. Sort of like a turkey track.
When we saw photos of it, we wrote it off because it didn't look like the goblin prints we were looking for. It looked like a turkey track. And now here, all of a sudden, is this book laying out the significance of these tracks in these paranormal cases. This is when I really started to sit up and take notice. In fact, I actually texted Carl about this immediately because it was so strange. He goes into power names. He starts talking about the idea of power names and what those mean for Fortean cases and strange cases, paranormal phenomena, things like that. He says, I'm not talking here about such spooky tongue twisters as H.P. Lovecraft's Yog-Sothoth or Arthur Macken's Ishkatar, but of quite ordinary names like Bell, Beale, and variants. Crowley, Francis, Grafton, Grubb, McGee, Mason, McKinney, Montpelier, Parsons, and Pike. Particularly calls out Parsons and Pike as power names, two of the things that were intrinsically connected to Hellier.
Oh, like Pike County. David M. Parsons. Which is so odd, right?
So weird. So unbelievable. It keeps popping up over and over again.
But we continue to see the name Parsons all over the place. And a list of maybe not even a dozen names here. Shelby, Vernon, Watson, Watt, Williams, Williamson. That was a big one. I haven't read a whole lot about power names until reading through this. He also talks about something he calls the Fayette factor, where like the anything with the name Fay or any relation to fairy-like names tend to have some really strange stuff. Pike is the name only slightly less charged with strange significance than Fayette across our land. All right, one of the other interesting things that he starts going into is the fact that Sirius and Orion seem to play a role in all of these sightings. Sirius is the dog star. Orion is the hunter. Orion is where the bad aliens come from. Sirius is where the good aliens come from. Bad aliens, for some reason, in tons and tons of these reports in these cases, go after dogs. They take dogs, they show an outward hostility to canines.
What is the thing that happens to David's dog? It's abducted.
They actively attempt to enter my home in the middle of the night. Last month, they took my dog.
In the Mothman prophecies, there's a whole passage about people's dogs disappearing during the Point Pleasant flap. Animal disappearances and deaths go hand in hand with the UFO phenomenon. In December 1973 and January 1974, there were wholesale disappearances of pet dogs from Connecticut to California. Among my grimmer memories of 1966 through 67 are those times when I knelt in farm fields to examine dead animals, particularly dogs, who had suffered amazingly clean and expert cuts. These deaths were not localized, but came in nationwide waves simultaneously with UFO waves. This pattern has been repeated ever since.
Richard Hinckley Allen, the star lore expert, notes that Orion was often, in earlier times, known as the Cocksfoot, or the foot-turning wanderer. Again, 3 toes, the Cocksfoot, the foot-turning.
All right, so just want to touch up a little bit on that whole animal mutilations with UFO sightings. So what they're doing is they're examining our diet. They're examining, they're taking our diet and they're checking on it. They're seeing what we're putting into our diet by what we put into those cows and those cattle and stuff by the means of their feed and their medicines and stuff. That's what they're looking at. I'm not too definite on it, but it's pretty clear. Like that's what we're going for there. Getting that big old hint of them investigating our diet. Why would they need to investigate our diet? Well, one of the reasons why I think they would need to investigate our diet is if they were going to turn us into a working population, like we are, and they wanted to transplant us to, say, somewhere beneficial for them to have us, like another Earth to mine more gold, where would they put us? So think about those things. That's just to add to it.
Wanderer.
The Cocksfoot, 3-toed footprints, Orion being at war with the dog star, David finding 3-toed footprints, his dog disappearing. I mean, it's all there.
And what's more is that we come to find that Sirius, the star, is sometimes referred to as the blue star, which is feeling more important and significant with Sirius after we found this blue star balloon.
Running with that connection, I actually wonder if those dates in February might have something to do with Sirius. We actually reached out to an astrologer on Twitter who had done some really interesting work with some of the dates from Hellier Season 1. And we asked about those specific dates in February, along with the date in June when we found the blue star balloon.
Wow. We told her the locations of the balloons that were found and the approximate times that they were found. Nothing else. She doesn't know they're in balloons. She knows nothing about why these dates are significant. The 2 dates in February also have a lot of planets clustered in what Stephen Forrest calls the objective fate quadrant of the charts. So that tells me these 2 dates likely involve the same people and events. Definitely similar vibes. Date 1, 3rd of February. Ann Orderly says that sometimes the sun on the south node can bring people in who can help you on your path. If anyone new appeared, then they're probably significant. That's probably you.
No, it's Amy.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Yeah, of course.
Oh
Amy.
my God.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, man.
Another thing that stood out to me right away on the first chart of 3rd of February is Jupiter in Scorpio is almost exactly trine to the MC. So Jupiter transiting Scorpio had a lot to do with bringing up hidden things. Lots bubbling to the surface. Major emphasis on publicly sharing with others. The 3rd date, the 14th of June, has the moon rising in Scorpio. This chart has an interesting grand water trine with the moon ascendant, Mars north node, Mercury, and Neptune. Mercury is out of balance. Because of this, I would guess that this event had a notable emotional impact. This is the blue star balloon. With Mars and Mercury on the end node, I wonder if this was a weird synchronicity event. Moon in Scorpio and Mars in Cancer are both in their weakest signs. I would say this whole chart reflects something to do with restriction or hesitation, careful planning, but with a lot of drive to keep going. I mean, that's pretty spot on for knowing nothing but the dates and times and places. what this person believes, and what a lot of anthropologists believe, is that the very first appearance of Pan was in 20,000 BC in a cave in France, also known as the Trois Frères Sorcerer. Super, super old, 20,000 BC. This was located so far and so deep in a cave, it was very, very difficult to come across. And some anthropologists believe the whole idea was to meet the shaman, to meet the sorcerer, the goat-headed sorcerer. You had to go on a very complex and tough journey. Osiris, the Egyptian earth god, ruled over vegetation and the dead, a psychopomp. Right here. Notice the color of his skin. It's green, but he also has horns. This shows up again in Islam. In the Quran, this guy is Al-Qadir. Yeah, he's a trickster prophet. So there you have two green men motifs right there. What pops up a little after that in 2700 BC is the steatite seal of India, which shows a horned god doing a yoga pose. Notice he's surrounded by animals. He's a forest god. Cernunnos shows up in 4th century BC. That's this guy right here. This guy didn't have a name until they were taking apart a church in England, and then they found one with an inscription that sailors had left, and then they called him Cernunnos. Notice how similar it looks to the seal from India. Two completely different places. Herne the Hunter shows up in Shakespeare in the 1500s, wore horns and antlers, had a canine companion. Eventually, Pan is turned into Puck. Puck is very mischievous. He likes to cause chaos, but all of his chaos actually leads to good things. Causes lots of dead ends for people, but those dead ends eventually lead somewhere. Images of Pan surrounded by dancing fae and playing the flute. You see that all over the place. Whether it's, where is it? Right here is one of my favorite images of it, because you see all of the nymphs dancing, and then right over here, just in the darkness, playing the flute, two little horns on his head, just outside of the view of everybody else. This eventually turns into this, which is the devil being danced around by the witches. Eventually, Christians took the traits of Pan and merged them with the devil. A lot of old Christian sites were built on pagan sites that were dedicated to people like Cernunnos and Pan and things like that, because they tried to merge the two, because they knew they would never get the pagans to worship the one god if they still had pagan belief systems. So as these things started to merge, they merged the devil and Pan together. Most of these people didn't really understand, because they had no concept of a pure evil. That was not a thing. That was like Zoroastrian dualism that showed up. And then people stopped paying attention to Pan. Pan's actually the only Greek god that ever died. The green man, lord of vegetation, growth, rebirth, things like that. Those are all tied in with Pan. So we start to see Pan everywhere in all of these different religions over and over and over. So basically what I'm laying out here is that there's an entity. We can call it Pan, we can call it whatever. The name changes, the mask changes all the time, but there is rarely as consistent an archetypal character that exists throughout history. Has to do with being a trickster, shows up in ufology cases, shows up in paganism, shows up in Christianity, all of these different places as this horned entity than Pan. It all really comes back to Pan. One of the things that he talks about here is about how Crowley, again, pops up. As his famous hymn to Pan suggests, Crowley was wont to invoke this god as the origin point of the supposed extra-human forces he sought to harness in his ritual workings. Crowley was literally invoking Pan in order to speak to Iwas, ultra-terrestrials, any of these entities that we're actively trying to speak to. He always coordinated with Pan to do that type of a working. That, I think, is huge. I think it's like, this is the phenomena. This is the phenomena, or at least a universal name for the phenomena throughout the ages.
One of the things I started doing in the weeks leading up to this was something that the best way I can describe it is like pressing my energy out or extending an energy grid to the Somerset area during my meditations with the intention of sort of feeling out the vibe of the general area, just seeing if I pick up on anything. The area felt less tethered than normal places. It felt really weird. It didn't feel like hellier. It felt a little bit different, but it definitely had like a sense of feeling much less tethered than like our waking reality, than maybe just even being here in this room. I felt a lot of really weird kind of elemental energy, like a lot of non-human, strange kind of landlocked, grounded elemental energy. I had definite senses of feeling like there was something kind of primordial or almost ancient there in that space. Maybe it's everywhere, but for some reason, again, because that spot's so untethered, it felt very clear. It was ringing out like a bell, almost like the place had been hit like a tuning fork. Again, when I kind of mentioned it earlier, but saying that it felt like a hub. It feels as if.
Ooh. So here we go. She said she put out some feelers so she could get a readout on what the place was like before she went there to finish the investigation. Now, what did she say? She said it led to right. She said it led to the whole process looking like there's that spirit laid within to the groundwork. Okay. Now what she's feeling is she's feeling electrical energies. She's picking up on, what like birds and stuff will say, and everybody's like, "Oh, I heard a little bird the other day." Those types of things. So
It's an intentionally important spot, like that there's, whether it has to do with the mineral deposits or whether it has to do with the location itself. It felt as if the spot itself was the important part, like that spot specifically would become some kind of a hub. When I think that we can add a huge element of kind of magic to what we're going to be doing while we're there, or at least put a nice layer of magic over top of everything that we're doing, because why not experiment with it? So I made a couple lists of things that we can do when we're there, and the very first thing that I think that we should do when we get to the cabin is, I think that we need to make, and I'm using this word just for the sake of having a way to explain this, but I think we need to make a fairy altar, some sort of a fae altar, something that basically is going to be continuously pumping out some kind of a welcome and just letting whatever potentially is around us kind of get to know us and know that that's what we're there for. So it's an intention that's constantly kind of emanating out of our space. So some of the things that I collected for that space would.
So I feel that this is something that they shouldn't have done until after they had their experiences, as kind of a thank you for the Fae giving them an experience. But they're not fully done with the experience. So I feel like if you pay those spirits off early, those spirits just take off. They take that energy and leave. They're not going to continue putting their energy into you. They're going to take what you're going to give them, and they're gone. So think about that with spirits. Not all spirits are like that, but a lot of spirits can act selfish in that way. Not wanting to expend energy they don't need to.
Milk, honey, cinnamon, cakes, white candles, things that have like traditionally appealed to the Fae. And so we're going to just create some sort of an area that's dedicated to them. And every day each one of us is going to upkeep it. And so that just means changing out the milk and honey, putting a different piece of cake on it, maybe lighting a candle, just something different every single day, just to let them know that we're here, we want to communicate, we're here respectfully, and that if you're comfortable, this is where, if you want to come and hang out with us, this is where we are. This is our hub. So the other thing that I'll be doing is when we get to the cabin, I have a certain herbal blend, and it's going to clear out some of the energy from maybe the people who were there kind of partying, being loud, and being generally kind of scary to potential fae folk. And it's just going to clean out that stuff and, again, lay a really nice foundation for communication. And that's going to be mugwort, St. John's wort, rosemary, and thyme. And they're all herbs that are traditionally linked to the fae, but also to peace and harmony, and just kind of letting, again, them know that that's what we're here for, to communicate and to make some sort of a connection with them. One of the things I'm going to have to do when we get to the cabin is I have a list of things I want to go out in the woods and find. And they're just going to be things that we can place on that specific altar. So toadstools, which are, they have a huge association with fae, especially in the Celtic traditions. Clovers, bluebells, honeysuckle, those are all really associated with fae. So having them kind of naturally be placed on the altar from that specific area is kind of another way of letting them know that we're here. We're recognizing that they're also here.
I would be more careful about that because, in lore, there's different kinds of elves, different kinds of gnomes, different kinds of leprechauns, different kinds of, so there's different kinds of everything throughout all the lores. So when you're dealing with the fae, think about it. Certain aspects of those things, like a toadstool, I wouldn't necessarily took the toadstool, but the mugwort, thyme, and rosemary, yeah. It's just maybe pay attention to your combination of what you're going to present if you're going to do that. But because sometimes, or if you find toadstool, build your altar near the toadstool instead. You know what I mean? Instead of having to destroy the toadstool or anything or take it from where it was naturally put, I would say, you could do it that way.
I have limit the amount of meat that we eat if we can possibly do that. Try to be barefoot as much as possible. Each one of these steps is a way to kind of let the phenomena know that we're there to communicate and to learn as much as we possibly can from it. The timing is kind of interesting. So we're coming up on Mabon, which is the second equinox, or it's the second harvest festival, basically. So traditionally, there were 3 festivals during this time of year. This is the second harvest festival. It's the autumn equinox, where the day and the night is equally, it's around the same amount of time. It's a solar festival, half in, half out, literally. It's a solar festival, a fire festival. It's a festival to pay respect to the impending dark because the winter is coming. It's a time of mystery, and it's a time of honoring aging gods, which I thought was really interesting. It's named after a Welsh god. It's a Celtic festival.
Yeah, and it's also during the time where a lot of people feel that the spiritual veil is peeled back almost to its fullest.
But one of the things I thought was really interesting was during Mabon, the Druids actually worshipped the Green Man by offering the trees libations. So we have a really great recipe for something that we're going to make actually at the cabin, and it has to steep for 4 days, 4 nights, and then we're going to pour some of the libations to the trees around the cabin and maybe around the cave itself. But basically, as paying respect and homage to the Green Man.
Being in Somerset with the whole gang made it real. This was obviously something There really wasn't any turning back from the case once we were all there together. You're surrounded by it, and you realize you're in it. It was one of those very surreal feelings of understanding that we're in it now. This is the time to find out what's going on.
Somerset's a very weird town. It's where I grew up from middle school on. And, you know, when you're younger, it's an awfully oppressive town. There wasn't, as I mentioned, a lot to do, very religious based. But we've gotten older, it's gotten a lot weirder, to be honest. There's always been weird things, but this town's not really talked about a lot of it. There's a lot of underground conspiracy theories that you hear in high school and stuff. But the further we got into the paranormal stuff, and especially now that we've opened the museum, the more people locally have weird stories about the area.
I was excited because Kyle was something that we didn't have in Hellier. We didn't know anybody in Hellier that we could ask about local legends, who was comfortable enough to talk to us. It was really hard to get people to open up. So now we have this guy with this paranormal museum right in the middle of town that I already have a rapport with. So I was very excited to get his take on Somerset. We didn't outright tell him what we were there for. We just kind of said, hey, we're passing through because we're still trying to remain pretty low key. But we asked him, what are some of the stories that you get here in Somerset?
I mean, ghost stories, of course, but Bigfoot sightings. We had a flying stingray seen in 2015. We have a ghost train that is in the area. We have a church that has gospel singings in the middle of the night. There's secret cults that we hear of. It's just the perfect place for a hub of weird things.
If we were going to go looking for UFOs or head into some caves and look for these creatures, would you have any advice for us?
Be careful. The area specifically I've mentioned on Short Creek is, all people aside, it is out in the country, so you'll get weird people. And all ghosts aside, there have been numerous weird things about it. People always say that they feel watched there. They have had people watched, literal people watch them from the woods and stuff. So just it being out in the middle of nowhere.
There was another thing that Kyle alluded to, but was very cautious about saying. He kind of stopped short of telling us about some of the seedier paranormal stories. Stories that potentially involved some secret society in this town. I guess tangentially related. And if you don't want to talk about this, that's fine. Are there stories of secret societies in this area?
So we have some weird stories about rings of questionable activity in our area that date, as far as I know, date back to at least the 50s.
Do you think that we would have any reason to be afraid of these rings of people if we go poking around?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely, even being here, I wouldn't dare mention these names on camera. I don't want to get involved there. We're right now at a 25-year anniversary of some of the most gruesome murders that have ever happened in Somerset that are still unsolved. And we think that as part of the same underground organization that has everything to do with what I was just talking about.
Do you believe that they might have any connection to any of the paranormal stuff that goes on in Somerset?
I think it's very possible. I heard a story from the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft that they think that Aleister Crowley might have been responsible for the first Loch Ness Monster sighting. So I think that anything can happen. So I think some of this stuff is just the manifestation of the weird energy that has been poured into our area for hundreds of years now.
Do you think this stuff might be like a side effect or a symptom of the weirdness?
I think symptom is a good word for it.
Ooh.
Kyle was very excited to introduce it.
Ooh, did you guys hear that? Symptom. I mean, what do you think? I think symptom. So, yeah, no, I mean, we'll keep going, but that's just what I wanted to
To
blow
his
up.
friend Nate. He'd been working on a podcast that was basically a year in the life of the town of Somerset, this area. And he had a lot of really weird stories. Everybody always says, well, Sedona has the highest number of UFO sightings in the U.S., you know? So one night I was like, why? You know, why is that? And the reasoning behind it, obviously, which you guys are probably familiar with, is that it's the quartz. There's a 2-mile long deposit of quartz underneath the desert. I mean, it even comes out of the dirt when you're there. You can see it in the ground. And that, what some people say is it's affecting people's brains and causing them to see balls of light. You know, not UFOs, but just distortions of light, right? Hallucinations. Or the other option is that it's causing some type of electrical effect. You know, I can actually check this out. You can go to NASA's website and you can download any type of satellite map. So I got the electromagnetic map. Immediately, there was this 3 hotspots. One was in southern Alaska. The purple was the peak, right? Like really, really bright purple. So it was southern Alaska, Sedona, Arizona, and then the southeastern United States. So I zoomed all the way down, and it was fucking Somerset, Kentucky, right? Nate started out talking about him looking into geomagnetic anomalies in the area, which immediately I was like, oh, score. There's another person looking into this, and they see the significance of Somerset. A lot of studies have shown that places that are considered holy places, where people have a lot of spiritual experiences, have high geomagnetic anomalies that may be affecting the brain. Literally what the God helmet is built to do. But Nate was finding stuff that I had no inkling of. This whole region that is the Pennyroyal Plateau stretches from like Elizabethtown, Hopkinsville, that area, up to Lexington, over to eastern Kentucky. So really what's right over top of the Mammoth Cave system, right, is the Pennyroyal Plateau. Turns out the Mammoth Cave system sits right below Kentucky, the center of Kentucky. And, you know, there could be a way that this is all connected. There are 2 large deposits of quartz in the world. The largest deposit stretches underneath the Pennyroyal Plateau into southeastern Tennessee. If you have a piece of quartz and you hit it with a really powerful magnetic field, it creates this crazy distortion, electricity, energy, and it's called the piezoelectric effect, right? So this town is sitting squarely on top of a giant piece of quartz with the most powerful, you know, piece of electromagnetic energy firing. It's like we're on the tip of a gun.
Somerset sits right on top of this huge deposit of quartz. It's almost like an Indian burial ground in the paranormal, where it's like, oh, people think this exists here, but it doesn't necessarily exist in many of the places they claim. But it actually does in that town.
You know, and you can even see, because the actual Van Allen belts dip down over top of this region, right, to try to touch that magnetic field that's good. So basically you're seeing space and the earth trying to touch each other right here in this place. Yeah. Which causes all kinds of crazy. That's wild, right? Out Highway 39 is a super strange place. People see all kinds of weird stuff out there. People literally have seen extra-dimensional interlopers. Like, people have seen things reported. Like, one of the reports was of a white, furry, 6-foot-tall man-sized thing with red eyes that came into existence crossing the road, stopped, and then passed through out of existence. There have been a lot of UFO sightings out there, a lot of cultist activity, that people, a lot of robed figures. Out Campground Road, there are all kinds of, and in 39, there are all kinds of sightings of people in robes, right? Over the years, Jake's mom, she said that people in this neighborhood where they were out in the country would constantly see things like that. They'd think people were in their house. They'd find animals on the property that had been cut, drained of blood.
my wife's brother lived in an apartment, and they would always tell me about seeing. They couldn't describe what they were, but they, in their mind, they were goblin-esque or like dwarf-like pass in and out of the apartment that would move things around. Later, when I was researching it, the 37th parallel, because once I found out about the electromagnetic shit, and then after I read the 37th parallel, I was like, well, how close are we to the 37th parallel, man, you know? And then you look at it, and it slices straight through town, right? But it goes straight through where his apartment was. And it turns out in that house, there were twin girls from the 50s through the 70s that saw these beings of light and energy, which everyone with a Christian background termed angels. But these beings of energy would appear to them out of nowhere and reveal the future. And these girls, people would come to this house for these girls to tell them what was going to happen. And they knew all this strange stuff, right? It was 2 houses down from us. So in the house that we live in, when we had moved down here 3 years after we were here, my wife was coming out of the bathroom, middle of the day. She'd taken a shower. She was coming out of the bathroom, and we have a thermostat. It's a 2nd floor bathroom. Which had a thermostat on the wall. And she walks out, sees the thermostat. The thermostat slides across the wall like 3 feet, drops down 3 feet, and then bounces back into place with this shimmer. She freaks, screams for me. Not because she thought that she saw something paranormal, because she thought she was having a fucking aneurysm or that something had gone wrong with her brain, right? I rush up there. She tells me what she saw. She's freaking out. And obviously the wall was there. I mean, nothing happened, you know. And I wish that I'd taken note of, like, when this happened. Like, what time of year, you know. But I know it was, like, 3 years after we were here. So 2 or 3 years after that, she comes out of the bathroom, middle of the day. Same fucking thing happens. Where it slides across the wall, down, bounces back with this, and slaps back in place. And I came home from work, and she was like, it happened again. And no, this is the other aspect to take into account. Amy, my wife, worked when we lived in Lexington. She was a candy striper at Eastern State, right? And I've verified this from 2 other people that have worked at Eastern State. And while she was there, you know, the doctors would say, hey, you know, where are you from? And she'd say, you know, Somerset, Pulaski County. And immediately they were like, what the fuck is wrong with Pulaski County? What's in the water? Because 70% of the people in Eastern State, they take people that are crazy and have mental illness from the entire state. Like if you're in Louisville, if you're in Western Kentucky, if you're in Pikeville, you end up at Eastern State, right? 70% of the population in there are from this county.
I don't like talking bad about Ashland, but we have an incredibly high rate of mentally ill people. The mental health is out of control in Ashland.
This county has the highest, or the largest mental health service per capita in the entire state. So then you've got to really start asking the question, is something affecting the people here?
And then he started talking about the cult.
This is not paranormal, sort of paranormal, kind of weird. This is the stuff that just be careful about. What do you use of this? Throughout the 80s, there was something called the Bluegrass Conspiracy. You guys probably heard of it. That, my theory is that culture, drug culture, and cartels filtered out through other areas. And so during this time period in the early 90s that we know of, you know, and I think it stretched before that, but definitely during that time period, there was or is a group operating. I don't know if it's a pedophile ring. There's a lot of people that reported that we've talked to that they had robes on. There was ritualism involved. The two main witnesses were Linda and Cody, and they were found out on the tree line, and both of their heads had been cut off. And there, it helps me work on that. Works with Daniel and I on a lot of stuff. He is talking to him, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm dating this lady, and she said that she was dating. She was in a relationship with this doctor here in town 3 years ago, and he was taking her to all these sex parties, and they were like dressing up in robes and fucking all these kids and fucking each other all eyes wide shut. And she said she did it for a few months, got weirded out when they were having sex with a lot of kids, and then broke up with him, right? So then she said that she tried to go to the cops, and her house was broken into 3 times. Then she never had any history of drug use or any crime. They raid her house and find meth. She had to fight the charges, right, to finally get out of it. And then she's crossing the fucking street right down here, and a fucking hit and run almost kills her. It's still fucking going on, man. The group still exists, even now. You're gonna lose your shit. One day, I get an email from a woman from Somerset who tells me she's seen these little creatures, and they were in the mine shafts and the caves. And she starts talking about running into people in robes who were doing crazy ass rituals out in the forests here in Somerset. And she thinks they have something to do. She thinks they worship the green men, the little green men. I don't know what that fucking means. We're trying to figure it out. Now that fucking chick is in jail. She got fucking picked up right after writing these emails to me. No fucking shit. Dude, she really sent you this? Dude, we have it all on fucking tape. It's all a part of the... It's insane. No shit, man. So I don't know what to make of any of this.
So that's pretty fucking crazy that this dude goes off on a whole different fucking tangent, and he's over here off in left field fucking doing some, some otherworldly shit, like out in the magnetospheres. He's like fucking talking about like, dude, I followed the electricity and the magnets and the quartz and the ground, and it led me to this weird shit. All right, let's be real clear. That's some weird stuff going on that he was talking about that, not okay. And, this is where you get to the point to where like, okay, these people will cut your head off to, if you keep digging. So what do you think? Do you think our guys keep going? Or do you think they call it a dead end? We're right at the end of this video. We're going to go into the second video for sure. This one's got me going.
Everything we've done in this entire case from the very get-go has been very much like seat of the pants. We are led where we're supposed to go to find what we're supposed to find. This is not what I want to find. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've been trying to figure out like what it is, because it feels like it's all connected. Something is affecting the people here, I think, in some weird way, and I don't know. I mean, I just, there are definitely distortions and some type of weird permeability of reality here. There is an anomalous nature to the very place we're standing right now. What if there is some cosmic trickster, and that it isn't, and that all of these things really are just that? And even the fucking cults and shit, all these people have just been duped. They think they're worshiping a fucking god, and this thing just thinks it's fucking hilarious, And it's not even a thing, It could just be a consciousness, or what if reality's conscious, I mean, yeah. That's really scary.
It's really scary. Whole conversation is really scary. I'm into the high strangeness. That's what I believe.
Connor's fucking done with Somerset, man. He's over it. When we got out of that meeting with Nate, I mean, we sat outside and Connor said, we should just leave right now. We should pack up and leave right now. I don't want anything to do with this. We should just go. And I understand him saying that.
I was ready to leave and didn't think that we were necessarily going to find a monster, but it was more likely, it seemed at that time, that we might find a human monster.
that's the end of that episode. So let's go ahead and does it bring us to 9? So if it brings us to 9. I mean, I ain't got nothing going else on, guys. So, I mean, 2 episodes at a time will get us through it. This is not it. The center of your mind. That's the title of this show. All right, Hellier is brought to us by Planet Weird presents
Hi. Hey, Amy. How you doing? I'm good. How are you doing? Good. I'm sorry it took me so long to track you down. It's okay. I didn't know what happened to you. How long have you been? How long have you been there? Right after I got off. Right after I started talking to you. No kidding. When it came time to do the chat, we had horrible cell signal. Like, we didn't even have cell signal at the cabin, but we had Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi was too terrible. It wouldn't even let us do a video call. So we had to drive into town, into the middle of Somerset, and use a hotspot on my phone to do this video chat. And I was really nervous. It was really hot. We were parked in the shade, and we just kind of sat there, waiting for her to pick up. And she picked up, and for the first time, we actually talked face to face. I guess my biggest questions for you, because of the timing of when you emailed, where did you hear the term euphanaut?
I heard the term because of some shit that was going on and some things that I had seen while I was there, and I Googled what it was that I had seen.
Okay.
And that's what it came up.
What about the term slough?
I've heard that too. But do you know anything about the military's involvement?
I know what people online say. I know that they talk about secret underground bases and things like that.
I started this because I heard a girl screaming whenever we were staying in a camper out there by the lake.
Okay.
I started digging into something then. I thought I was digging into a creepy old guy named Ed that lived right up the street, and I thought he was a serial killer. It turned out to be something that I wasn't capable of fighting on my own.
Okay.
Or doing something with. And it was much bigger than that. And it wound up landing me a bunch of felonies, and I will never be able to go back to being a school teacher again.
You were a school teacher?
Third grade.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it's ruined my entire life. And
you mentioned. I have your emails. I printed them out so I could have them. You mentioned something about worshiping the green man. Can you give me more about that?
I can tell you that there are a bunch of them that lives in the caves out there. They are a whole underground network, and their minds in the caves, and they are all over the place out there.
What?
I'm going to warn you though. You better be careful digging into something that you don't. Once you do, you can't unsee.
What's up?
What's up, buddy?
No, a lot.
What's that?
I said not a whole lot.
Right on.
So the first episode of the night was just to get y'all riled up, right?
Right.
And now they're talking to the girl that wrote the emails. She's in jail right now. But yeah, they're talking to that girl. So yeah, I mean, it's super crazy. I'm super, I'm all hyped up. I'm like ready to go. So here we go.
You can't unknow it. And you just can't. And it's really, it screwed my whole life up. And I still have no clue of anything. I know, but I don't even know what I know. Does that make sense?
I understand. I understand what you mean. One of the weirdest things about talking to Amy was in her initial emails, she talks about the Green Man, and she talks about Beltane, and she talks about people worshiping the Green Man. Tyler then sees a Green Man, a literal Green Man on a tree, after getting lost at the coordinates and popping out and seeing this thing. It was very pointed, and then we're looking into the connections into, Pan, this earth energy. The rebirth of Pan sets us down this path that also starts to talk about, Pan's connection to the Green Man. These things all lined up in a very spooky manner. So we start to talk to Amy, and her Green Men are literal Green Men. They're not the Green Man. Like, she doesn't even have any concept for that. Which is really weird, because you look at those emails and I don't see any other way to interpret what she's talking about other than the idea of the Green Man God or the Green Man Earth Spirit. And now she's saying, no, they worship the little green men. So she gives us this description that's just the goblins again. So it's gone from goblins to the Green Man Spirit, Pan, back to goblins again. Which is bizarre. All of the dead ends are purposeful. They're pointed. It's like they're time activated almost. Like everything needs to be a different thing at a different time. Much like the phenomena, the facts themselves are shifting to be what they need to be when they need to be it. For us to still get to the same point. That's bizarre to me. Can you tell me more about Doug and how he might know who I am?
I don't know. He just said that I needed to look up somebody who done this kind of things for a living, and he just said that he pointed you out and said that he would know how to help me.
How do you know Doug?
I have known Doug for the last 20 years.
But he's
an older man.
He's an older guy?
Mm-hmm.
If you had to succinctly sum up what you think is happening in Somerset, what you think is happening in these caves, how would you sum that up?
Well, honestly, I don't know. I know that there are pagan, they have rituals out there. I know that much. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's one group of people, because I'm finding so many different things going on out there. So I don't know if it would be pagan, Wiccan crap, or if it's underground human trafficking. I don't know what's going on out there. All I know is that some really serious shit is going on out there, and nobody lives there. They have tree stands. People watch out there. It's almost, I swear I believe it's government. Right. Okay, look, there's a house. It's on Halebridge Road. It's like there's an elevator in the bathroom that goes down to the mine shaft in there.
In the house.
Yes, in the house.
So do you think my wheelhouse is really mostly in paranormal phenomena, UFOs, Bigfoot?
Yo. That was like a super important, like, heads up. Look at this. So that's something they're gonna have
Things
to
like that.
investigate.
Like, that's what I do. So government conspiracies, military conspiracies, things like that are a little bit out of my wheelhouse. Do you believe there's a paranormal connection, or do you think this is totally just people doing bad things?
I don't think Area 51 is in New Mexico. I'm trying to tell you, it is in Somerset, Kentucky. That's what I thought it was. All right, just want to make sure.
Okay.
I know.
Is there anything now in our last 5 minutes? Is there anything that I need to know before I start digging into this more seriously? Anything at all?
Dig quietly. Last year. Dig quietly. Do not be as loud as I was, because I went in with a sledgehammer. I'm telling you, there's a whole civilization of these down there, and you can hear them way before you get deeper in.
What are they?
I don't know. I don't know, but they are like a lime green. And I don't know. I border on. Me and my mom joke about it. Calling hills have eyes. I don't know. If you want to know the truth about it, I really don't know. This literally shook my entire life, and it started with a girl screaming in the woods, and ended with a lot of questions and a whole lot of felony charges. And we've got 6 seconds.
I'll plan another call with you. We'll talk more.
Okay.
I don't even know what to make of that. I'm more confused now than I was before. She sounds... It's clear that she wants me to look into something, but I don't know if I trust exactly what she's telling me to look into. She did not back down from her story. In fact, there were more details to her story that made a lot of the earlier emails make sense. It really started to seem like she had seen something, and she even admitted to us. She saw something, and she does not really know how to make sense of what she saw, and she's doing her best to make sense of it. How did that make you feel watching that?
Really anxious. I have a real bad feeling about it. To be perfectly honest with you.
It's funny. So it would be a heck of a lot easier if you would have made that phone call far away.
Yeah.
But we're in the town. It's right down the road. Like
And it scares me
I'm
too.
scared.
Because it's also so close to Cincinnati. Like,
Dude,
it's 2 hours away
cave-
from Cincinnati.
The cave is less than a mile down the river.
It's gonna be really easy to reach. I know exactly the cave that it is. We have a map even of that cave.
That's not the point I was trying to make. I was trying to make the point of that the people that are the scary people are literally surrounding us right now.
And the worst part is, like, I feel bad for her.
Somerset's weird. Yeah. There's weird stuff going on. You're talking to absolutely normal people, talking to the guy from the museum today. There's a lot of weird stuff that's going on here. It just depends on who's telling you the story. They're getting their own version.
Marginality is potentially a factor in somebody who has paranormal activity and phenomena occurring around them or called to them. It frankly seems a lot more likely to occur in more marginalized areas, like Hellier, like the outskirts of Somerset. And so, just to a point where you realize after reading enough that that's a risk you're going to have to be willing to take. She didn't back down from her story, which I found surprising. She gave more details for us to look into. And so, the thing right now, like you said it best, like, we are paranormal investigators. So what we have is, interestingly enough, a callback to little goblin creatures. Not the green men of ancient myth and worship in the olden times, but rather, like, she's saying there's creatures in the mine. So what I would propose is this. We try to find some green men, maybe while we're here. Let's bring that case, let's look for the paranormal aspect, then close the chapter for us.
I'm wondering more, is it possible to separate it? But once we start looking into one aspect of what she sent us off on, are we intrinsically intertwined into that story? That's what I'm worried about. And I think probably we should all be worried about it. So we already made the decision. Like, talking about it now doesn't do anything. We already made the decision. So now we just have to do what we came here to do and go into some caves and see what we see. Let's continue the ritual. We're here for a reason. We might not even totally understand that reason yet, but we're here for a reason, and we need to see that through.
Initiations don't exist without fear, right?
Literally. Yeah.
What do you think of aliens? Do they exist? Yes, I guess. I don't think that they've necessarily been here and visited us, because I don't know that they, I mean, with all the galaxies and all the stars, I have a hard time believing, we're it, because I just think that that's really, statistically, probably not the case. Welcome back. How you feel? Really good. Really good? Kind of. Very sleepy. Very sleepy? Yeah. The watery eyes, for the purpose of everyone else watching, is a common symptom of a successful hypnotic session.
It's that poor guy that they conned
If you
into
didn't think you experienced hypnosis in
thinking
high
he
school,
was
you most
abducted.
certainly did. They weren't like grays. They weren't like the ones like I was sort of wasn't what you expected. Not at all. Not at all. Like, I'm calm now, but I feel like I just went through like a whirlwind of a lot of stuff. It's, how much time do you feel has gone by? It feels like forever, but I mean, I don't know how many hours has it been. It's been like 20 minutes. Are you fucking with me? Dude, no. It's better than fun. I feel like no. You guys are fucking with me.
What's your name?
My name is Jason Gowan.
And what about the night of October 14th, 2012?
I remember we were filming for Planet Weird. We were going to do an experiment. I was supposed to be an alien abduction induction. I don't, there's not a lot else I remember as far as what happens to me. Like, I know things that I've been told. I know that I get a very uneasy feeling whenever this conversation comes up, but I don't, the events of the actual abduction, I don't recall.
Do you believe in UFOs?
Yes.
Yeah? You believe in alien entities?
Yes. It's interesting because now I feel a little more foreboding at the very idea of aliens.
Do you think that there are people being abducted by aliens?
You know, I think that it's in the realm of possibility.
Give us your name and how you'd like to be titled. What are you? What do you do?
Oh, Lonnie Scott. I'm a professional hypnotist and hypnosis instructor. I'm also a practicing occultist.
What did you think when Greg Newkirk asked you if you could arrange an alien abduction implantation?
Well, I was excited for the challenge. Memory is a tricky thing, and false memories are easy to create. And I thought by creating that experience in someone, under the safety and the guidance of knowing that that's what we were doing as an experiment and not trying to fulfill, a recovery of an abduction experience from someone who's afraid that may have happened to them. I wanted to see if false memories were that easy to create and show that there is a danger to irresponsible regression.
I always thought it was a little bit of a stretch to link Terry to the hypnosis experiment. I never really thought that that's actually what he was talking about. But there have been a lot of aspects of this case that do seem to support doing that experiment. It keeps coming up, this whole idea of trance states being an aspect of alien abduction. There were some interesting elements of flying saucer to the center of your mind that supported our motivation to try the hypnosis experiment. Because even Keel was arguing that it seemed like the UFO phenomena is less something happening out here and more something that's happening in here. The major theory, now evolving among top ufologists, is that a large percentage of all UFO contacts and ground level experiences are entirely hallucinatory.
Out of the five of us, who do you think would be a good candidate?
All of you. Absolutely. All of you. Yeah, it's just a particular state of mind.
I think Strand's just too nuts to go, frankly. We all got some real wacky things up in our brains. I think that's it. I think the three of us in particular would be too. I don't think people would trust the process as much if it was one of the three of us. Definitely. How would you feel if you went, Connor?
I am nervous. I think I probably could do it, but I also think Dana could. And I'm a little bit nervous.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going just based on the amount of time in the Estes method, I mean, it's you three for sure. Mm-hmm. I think Dana's out of the running already. I just don't.
Because it's such a strange experiment and it's so easily potentially spun out of control that it needed to be people who were the most grounded, who could ground that experience and actually come back with information.
Carl is the most objective. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm good with Carl. Are you guys good with Carl? Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If all I have to say to you are certain key phrases or words for you to go to the dentist and have a root canal, go home, use more of those hypnotic techniques, just words spoken to you in the correct manner, and then heal faster from that. Why couldn't you use those same sorts of techniques to contact spirits or travel other worlds within your own mind? And who knows what the possibilities really are.
At the end of the day, Lonnie knows we need to get actionable, objective information out of this somehow that we wouldn't have otherwise known. So he knows that's the goal of this whole experiment. So no matter what, that's the end aim.
But it sounds like your mindset, though, too. If we do get information, we aren't going to necessarily know tonight whether or not that's something we don't know, because it's going to require research.
But that's the
to
point.
get an answer. Yeah.
That's the exact point, is having information that we can find out later is real information.
This time isn't about creating false experiences or false memories. This time is much more in line with magical and occult practices of using trance to visit places in inner worlds that could probably be connected to outer worlds, to retrieve information like we were talking about earlier, to create meet and perhaps create allies. That is a much more traditional use of trance in magical and occult practices.
In a lot of ways, I feel like we're just doing a human Estes method.
Kind of. Yeah, that's sort of what it is.
And I think maybe that's the best way to look at it. We're doing the human Estes method.
Are we ready?
Do you think we're going to be successful?
I know we're going to be successful. Absolutely. I see no reason why we should wait any further.
All right.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Great. Go ahead. Close your eyes and take a good deep breath. Very good. Take another deep breath. Very good. And as you begin to allow your body to just simply relax, with each and every breath, settling into a nice, normal rhythm. Now, in a moment, I'm going to count down, and on each and every count, you can double or even triple that sense of relaxation. 5, 4, drifting further and further. 3, 2, all the way down towards that far and distant horizon. 1, 0. Your mind and your body are now in that place where you can accept any of the suggestions that are given. With each and every step into that place, you're left with nothing more ability to peer into that darkness. To know that you are part of a process. You are part of a role. And that you are here not only as a witness, as you have been to so many mysteries, but you are here now to be a voice to those mysteries. Now, when I ask you a question, you will be able to answer me. Have you found yourself in that place? Yes. Ask your own intuition. Show you something to reveal in that room where you're at now. A sign, a symbol, a word, a phrase, maybe even an item as a deeper clue. Ask for clarity. What's going on in Hellier? There's a gateway. A gateway to what? To these other places. Is the gateway open? It's closed. Are you supposed to open it? Or is it supposed to be closed? You're supposed to open it. And what happens when that gateway opens? They get to come out. Ask again, only this time, what's going on in Somerset? Somerset's a place on the fringes. The fringes of that gateway. The fringes of the places in between. Somerset is a liminal place.
Yeah. I will say, when I was editing the footage, I noticed that Dana used a very similar expression in the tin can tunnel while doing the Estes method when asked about where we should use the tones.
Where do we use this? That's the question. We're a bit overwhelmed at the moment.
In the space between.
In the space between.
Obviously, we've all got a lot of liminality on the brain right now, and I've seen that clip before, probably a couple of times watching through the whole thing, but that's purely a subconscious thing at work because that was not a connection that I had ever made.
What happened to Indrid Cole?
Give me a sec. There may be a book that's present in that room. There could be a sudden video that begins playing.
Yeah, I've been using the books. Send the signal now, whether it is now, later, in a dream, an inspiration, or a sudden idea in the days to come, that clue will unravel, that your subconscious mind will go to the puzzle and begin to put the pieces together. What happened to David Christie?
Who keeps saying that he's dead? Who keeps saying that he's dead? I check the books, and I like to see what text shows up.
During the hypnosis experiment, we start hearing these noises upstairs, and it sounds almost like footsteps, but it didn't sound like the normal creaking that we had gotten used to around the cabin, the settling noises. It seemed like while Carl was under, like the place was coming alive.
If Hellier is a gateway, Somerset is the fringe. What are the goblins?
Gatekeepers. They're around those spaces.
Are they there to keep us out or to show us the way in?
They're more of a byproduct.
The gate exists, so a gatekeeper exists in turn.
Yeah.
Do they have to be appeased or receive offerings or some sort of signal to allow access to those gates?
They have to be summoned. With bread.
And how does that work?
They're the minions of the something. Just human form.
Oh, offerings of bread.
I guess.
If not who we're supposed to talk to, what are we supposed to do?
We're supposed to find the fountain.
How will we know if it's the correct fountain? Carl, I've got one final task for you in this place. You may want to go through that door again one more time, that ladder, that gateway, to access some place. It may be the same, it may be different. A place where you can speak to and communicate with any of your allies or guardians, or any being that may be there to communicate with you now. Have you gone into that other place?
Yeah.
And is there someone or something there that you can communicate with waiting for you?
Yeah.
Ask them for a sign. Ask them to affect something in our physical world. And have them tell you now how we will know that it is them. Can they do that for us?
Says it's gonna be big.
And how will we know it was them?
You'll know.
If you're not sharing any more details, then it's going to be big.
You know, you got like a mental picture of like all the windows exploding.
And who are you talking to?
It's like a large praying mantis.
Communicating in symbol, words.
Yeah, you can talk. Although my mind kind of jumps to the answer.
Again, something big and windows exploding.
Yeah, just like a sign, just like powerful, you know?
If they have a symbol or something that we could call on them, ask them to please share that symbol now.
Can I get like a pyramid with a light coming out of it? Like in Vegas. It feels like something complex is trying to be shown to me, but it's
To feel too complex in this place and in this time to fully comprehend.
Yeah.
Thank them for their presence. Come back to your room of peace and power. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. 1. Know that you can access this place in your mind any time. 2. Know now that you have the power to relax simply by willing it to be so. 3. You are connected to your allies, your guards, and your guardians. 4. Carl, take a good deep breath in. And 5, whenever you are ready, you may open your eyes. How'd you like that?
That was all right.
I think you did a great job.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
That was weird. I'm still not really sure what I think about the hypnosis experiment. It was really uncomfortable and really frustrating, but it's really hard. I was basically just trying to like get into a trance state and then almost do word association. Anything that was said, I would just try to take the first thing that popped into my head. Literally just trying to like remove my conscious mind from the situation. So anytime that I got something kind of random and weird or just spat something out, that's usually interesting. You know, like that was as close as we could get to what I think we were trying to do. Yeah, it's tough too to separate like my conscious mind from it too.
I could notice you doing that. Yeah.
How did you feel about like the symbolism of the fountain around that area? Do you remember that?
fountain popped in. It felt in my brain. It was like almost like one of those like stone like fountain in a cave, or a stream, like a fountain of a stream start maybe in a cave, and then that fountain in like a square, like a landmark kind of thing, that if we came across one at a certain point, it would be like there's that sort of thing.
I'll tell you something I absolutely love about our town is it seems like it was founded on the same strangeness. Our well, I can't remember what year it's founded. It was founded at, but it was our main well for the whole area, and it now has this bell on it that says anyone who drinks from this water shall always return to Somerset.
There were two things that came out of my hypnosis session that showed up 2 days later. I described a pyramid shape and a fountain or a spring.
Wow, so was this like a natural spring? Is the idea that it was healing water or something?
This was where everyone in the town, and this was also our like meeting place.
Make a wish, take a drink.
Have wisdom and return to Somerset.
Oh yeah, wow, look at that.
Whoever drinks from the old town spring will have wisdom and will always return to Somerset.
2 days later, Kyle takes us down to this old decrepit city center, and right there is a pyramid and a spring with a bell that almost kind of looked like a fountain if you flipped it over. That might have been a fountain at a certain point earlier. It's basically what came up in my session. The pyramid even had an eye etched in it, like an all-seeing eye, which was one of the impressions that I got. I don't know what this means. It wasn't like an aha moment. I didn't even kind of realize.
Yeah, there's some weird symbolism and stuff that just popped up there. You know what I mean? Like the carvings and stuff look like they should be investigated. They look kind of out of place. I don't know.
Is it at the time until I put the pieces together later? But it does seem to suggest perhaps that there is something more happening than just getting in touch with my subconscious to get its opinions about this case.
So this used to be a well, and then he just put the bell in there?
Yeah.
I mean, looking at it, I wouldn't be surprised if there used to be a fountain in there.
Yeah.
It seemed like there was something perhaps more psychical, or perhaps something was communicating, and that area, if not the center of Somerset, was important.
As early as the 1950s, a man by the name of Williamson was claiming telepathic contact with beings on Sirius, some of it by means of an alleged intergalactic radio, which he demonstrated to followers at his Telonic Research Center in Prescott, Arizona. I literally have a note here. Estes method?
Intergalactic radio like this?
Exactly. This idea continuously pops up over and over and over in everything I've been reading. Contactee cases, they talk about, there's a book called The UFO Speak. It's all about how they used a radio tuned between stations that would basically cause a psychic connection with them, whoever they are. Again, sounds a lot like the Estes method. In fact, the man who popularized the Men in Black, Albert Bender, a magician, people don't really realize this, he was doing rituals in his apartment and then was visited by 3 men all dressed in black. And they told him, you can contact us by tuning your radio between the stations. That allows us to come in and out. Another weird Estes method thing.
I don't like ghost boxes. That's part of the reason why I like the Estes method so much. I don't really care for ghost boxes, but there is genuinely something very strange about the boxes that Frank built. We attempted to do an Estes method with one a few weeks.
All right, so the boxes they're about to use are very special boxes, and they're gonna link up in crazy ways. But it's just really weird that they have these special made voice boxes. It's crazy.
Ago, and it was straight up weird. All right. Well,
It's like a really loud scream sound. My head is going wom, 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 wom. I wasn't scared.
No.
What happened?
I'm done for the night.
It's nothing like I've ever experienced with just doing the Estes method using an SP7. Like, it's a very different experience. For me, using the Frank's box, it felt like a whole body experience. So, like, lots of tingling sensations, lots of feelings of being kind of swept up into a current.
Frank's box is an early version of the same type of equipment that we use for the Estes method. It is a box built by a man by the name of Frank Sumption, and they were created, Frank believes, under the influence of extraterrestrials, and they're incredibly rare. I think I was just looking the other day, and I think Frank made less than 200 of these things before he died, and he didn't sell them. He only gave them to people that he felt were right. And the fact that we ended up with one literally days before we were going to Somerset, it felt like we were supposed to use the Frank's box with the Estes method in Somerset.
You're dazzled.
Dazzled?
Multiple people right now. You're closer.
It was weird. he adopted this very strange accent that none of us could figure out what it was, but it was consistent throughout the entire thing, which I thought was interesting. It was actually kind of scary. Partially through, part of the way through it, I started to get a little bit concerned about whether or not he was sort of getting in a little too deep.
Can you tell us who you are? How we should refer to you? Names are really important to us. We thank you.
Seems like there's a couple of aspects here. There's the potential for physical beings in these caves, and there's a potential for contact with the higher phenomena. Are we correct in that thesis?
So like Connor, who repeats Connor.
Connor,
that's what I was thinking. We're a little confused because we keep feeling like this thread with Indrid Cold and his crew and his family. It's just a blip. It feels like that thread is done.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know what to make of all this information about Indrid, and Carl, and Connor and Connard. What are we supposed to do with that information? Leave it alone. Trust it. You point to the story. Try not to ruin the story.
Tearing apart the old contactee stuff. Not really tearing it apart. I think we're doing it a justice.
About me. Who are you? If we're going to tell your story properly, we need to know whose story we're telling. I always talked about peace for years.
Is it Indrid? I'm thinking it's Indrid. The whole time I'm feeling like this is Indrid.
Crazy.
It sounds more like Terry's Indrid than the Darren Burger's Indrid. It sounds like scarier, Indrid.
He is one.
See?
Okay.
If this,
Why is it taking this route?
are you
Your name?
You want our name?
I'm Greg. This is Dana. This is Carl. And this is Connor. What's your name?
My name is Michael.
Oh my god.
Thank you, Michael.
Hi.
It's nice to meet you.
We are W. We are
W's?
our son.
Michael, where are you from? Maybe that'll help. Where are you from, Michael? We're from here, Earth, if you're not here. Specifically in Kentucky, in the United States of
Sonny.
America.
The talisman.
A talisman?
And
What do you look like? Would we recognize you if we saw you?
the angel.
I knew that's what it was. That was my next fucking question. I knew it. That's a big.
I gave Tyler a blessed medallion of St.
I know.
Michael the Archangel
You gave him that one?
3 days ago. I thought that it would be fun if I brought something from my faith background of Catholicism. I had chosen a little medallion, a little talisman per se, with depictions of different patron saints on them. And I gave Tyler a medallion of St. Michael.
Why are you here with us?
He's part of this.
Michael, do you understand that we need to know that this is the right thing to do?
The process. Believe it. Connor, you're our wig out.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. You know what? All right. Thanks, guys. I don't want to go inside by myself. All right.
All right, listen.
Wait. Should Connor be calm? Is everything okay?
I need to calm down.
Don't you believe in magic?
Well,
Don't know sometimes. I believe in God. I believe in good things. I believe that there's magical things in the world too. Yeah.
I feel full of adrenaline.
We're happy
Feels
to.
really good.
Okay.
I almost feel like I'm in a fight.
Holy shit, did you just hear that? That was something climbing either over the ledge down there or falling off the ledge down there, right underneath Tyler. I thought maybe something.
I felt something touch my calf. Almost like something twisted around it like a rope.
It was like, that's what it sounded like. I thought something fell off behind him.
chill. Just everybody calm down for a second.
Don't say anything down there.
He doesn't feel agitated, so I think we should let him go for a few more minutes.
Yeah.
This is really weird.
Really interesting.
Have we ever met you or talked to you before? Are you someone that we're familiar with already?
Getting really warm. Shaky. It's hard to focus.
It might be time to start thinking about pointing him out. If he's having a hard time focusing, Should we take Tyler out?
I have to call him. All right, well, thank you for, we welcome good interaction and good intentions.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
Let's pull him out before he like passes out or.
Can we speak with you again soon?
Oh, fuck.
Okay, pull him out.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. What happened?
What? I don't know. This is a lot of adrenaline. It feels, it felt good, but right at the end, right before he tapped it, it's almost like it made itself clear that it started going, like just repeated, like loud pumps. That was like a full body thing.
Breathe. Big deep breath.
All right. Listened to a weird thing for a long time.
How was it?
Did it yield anything?
It was one of the weirder sessions I've heard ever. It was very strange. There was
Such a jarring transition when you're pulled from this space, especially with what happened to me inside of this space. So you go from experiencing this energy that feels like it's ripping you apart, and then all of a sudden you're on a porch. You're on a porch in the middle of the woods in Kentucky. And he'd never had a session like that before. And that lent itself to the idea that maybe there was something a lot bigger than a usual Estes Method session happening. I've never experienced anything like that. I myself am not a religious person. That's not to say that I don't put value or power in what would be considered some type of angelic entity. I think all of those things are part of this. I think one man's angel is another man's alien. Everything that we've been working on, everything that we've been doing, pointed to us doing a ritual. You know, for all we knew, we were already in the middle of one. We just needed to make it official.
It felt very fitting to smash all of that together, apply what we can, and try to draw that phenomenon to us and make something happen.
So we decided we would go into one of these caves and invoke the god Pan.
All right, and that's our show for the night, you guys. These guys sound pretty crazy. So thank you guys all for joining, hanging out with us for the night for the dual show. Remember, for those of you that are on all the other social medias besides YouTube, this is WebC Official YouTube, and if you scan this QR code, it'll bring you right over to the WebC Official page. All right, you guys have yourself a great night, and we will talk to you on the next Late Night Load.